Hello and welcome to this edition of Ritter's Rant. Today we're going to be talking about money. Um, yeah, I'm doing it. This is a fundraising appeal. But before I talk about reaching out to Tin Cup and asking for donations, let me give you a brief rundown of what your donations have accomplished to date. Um, as many of you are aware, in July I announced what I call Project 38. That is a campaign built around a concept that is going to result in a documentary film, 38 minutes, that uses the situation that transpired in Hawaii back in January of 2018 when for 38 minutes, the citizens of Hawaii thought they were going to die from a nuclear missile attack. They were saying goodbye to their loved ones. They really thought this was it. And from this situation, I asked two questions. If you were on the ground with that missile coming in, knowing you were going to die, what would you do if you could go back in time 6 months to stop that missile from being launched? And then the second question is, why aren't you doing that now? And what Project 38 does is try to put together a plan to do just that. The New START Treaty, the last remaining arms control treaty between the United States and the Russian Federation, expires in February of next year. And without a new treaty vehicle, we're looking at a nuclear arms race that only leads in one direction, and that's not a good direction. And so the question is, how do we get that treaty to be extended, and how do we create an environment for that's conducive to negotiations between Russia and the United States? And so, we have to begin attacking this problem. And one of the critical things is to create an environment conducive to negotiations. We have to address the underlying issue of Russophobia in America today, because Russophobia dominates our media, our academia, our intelligence services, the people who advise the President of the United States, the people who make policy. And the best, antidote to the poison of Russophobia is Russian reality, just the facts, the truth about Russia. And the best way to capture this reality is to continue a process that I've been doing for years now of traveling to Russia, meeting with Russians and listening to Russians and bringing home this reality and trying to disseminate it to a broad American audience so that we create the foundation upon which we might be able to convince President Trump that arms control and extending the New START Treaty is actually good for America. It will make America great again. And so in August, I did this. Now, it's imperative, too, to understand that we live in a very difficult time where anybody who challenges the mainstream narrative is immediately attacked. I've been called a lot of names in my time. I'm Putin's puppet. I'm a tool of Russia. You can go on and on and on and on. None of it's true, but, doesn't matter. Perception creates its own reality. And so, therefore, it was imperative that when I returned to Russia this August to continue this work of, creating the antidote to the poison of Russophobia, that I do so paying my own way. And because, yes, there are many groups in Russia that would gladly pay the airfare, pay the hotel for myself and others to travel to Russia. And they would do it out of the kindness of their hearts because, it benefits them to have Americans come and see the truth. But the problem is, if you take advantage of this kindness, it opens you up to being called Putin's puppet, a tool of Russia. And so I paid my own way. I paid my airfare, I paid my hotel, I paid my meals, I paid the costs of associated with my aspect of this trip, and it cost a lot of money, several thousands of dollars that I couldn't have done on my own. It was you, the people who provided the donations, that made this trip possible. And this trip was a home run, just so you understand. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And the success that I had in capturing the Russian voice and bringing it back to America, there's a pushback. And I would say that when we speak of preparing a foundation that is conducive to negotiations, it's not just preparing the United States, but preparing Russia as well. And this trip that I undertook, the Russians themselves said it was an information bomb that was set off by this trip. In fact, many Russians thought that, because I was there a week before the Alaska summit between Trump and Putin, that, I was part of the U.S. government's strategy, that I was sent over by the U.S. government to create this aura of goodwill. That wasn't the case at all, but I'm very glad to find out that the Russians received me and the work I was doing in a positive manner. This is conducive for ongoing efforts of this nature. But this is the best way to have started off Project 38, with this fantastically productive visit that set the stage for even more important work going forward. But it couldn't have been done without your donations. Now we're moving into the next phase of it. On September 24th, I'll be convening a 3-day workshop in Poughkeepsie called the Poughkeepsie Peace Initiative, where I will be bringing in specialists, political specialists, arms control specialists, intelligence specialists, people who know Russia inside and out and have expertise in Russia. And we will be talking about how we can build upon this August trip to create what I call Team B, or I think a better term for it would be a citizen engagement team. This is a team of experts that can provide the President of the United States and his advisors with supplemental briefings. You see, right now the president is being briefed by so-called Russian experts in the intelligence community who don't have the best interest of his policies in mind. In fact, we just saw the high-profile firing of one of these briefers, Julia Gerganis, who used to be the National Intelligence Officer for Russian Eurasia and the National Intelligence Council, formerly of the Russia Mission Center. She played a very important role in putting together the 2016 intelligence community assessment that falsely said that Vladimir Putin was seeking to tip the scales of the American electoral process in favor of Donald Trump. That now has been shown to be a lie, not just a lie, but a politicized lie, and she was knee-deep in that politicization. And yet this CIA asset who was conspiring to undermine President Trump and his first administration was briefing President Trump before the Alaska summit. Think about that. As President Trump is moving forward to have a meeting with President Putin to improve U.S.-Russian relations, a CIA analyst who, first of all, doesn't like President Trump, and second of all, doesn't believe we should be having good policy relations with Russia, is briefing the president about Russia. Now, she has lost her security clearance and she won't be making these briefings again. But the point is, as American citizens, can we really sit by and do nothing as the CIA continues to poison the waters of potential peace with Russia? And the answer is no. We can't stop the CIA from existing. Of course, the CIA will take advantage of their status to continue to provide briefings to the president. But I think it's important that American citizens who are empowered with the truth about Russia seek to offset this bias, this anti-Russian bias, this Russophobic infected bias by providing a perspective based upon the Russian reality. And this is what we're going to be doing in Poughkeepsie, bringing people together, flying them in from various places, putting up in hotels, feeding them. It doesn't happen for free. And again, it couldn't have been done without the donations that have been provided to date. And we have sufficient funds to make this happen. I'm not asking money for Poughkeepsie. We already got it. Thank you. And it's going to be wonderful. And your money is also helping out with a rally, a peace rally. It's going to take place on September 27th in Kingston, New York, where I'll be working with Gerald Celente and others to, again, promote the prospects of peace, to promote the concept of good relations with the United States and Russia, to, again, continue to help educate people. I'm not asking for money for that either. You've already given that money. what you've given to date is creating these wonderful opportunities, but the campaign's not over. In November, I'm scheduled to go back to Russia. And as things stand, there's not enough money to do this. Now, there's a lot of time between now and November, and I'm very optimistic that the funds will come in and this trip will be accomplished as planned. But, no man can do things by himself. Everything requires a team effort. And one of the things that came out of August's trip is that there's a necessity to bring in other so-called alternative journalists. Actually, Patrick Lawrence, a very well-known journalist, I just had a meeting with him in September, earlier this month in Switzerland. He said he doesn't like the term alternative media because that implies somehow a subservient role to the mainstream media. He says, no, we are the real media. We're not the fake media. We're not corporate-owned media. We are real, legitimate journalists who are doing our job. And we need, in order to do our job, we have to have access to Russia, which means that it can't just be Scott Ritter that goes to Russia. We have to start bringing other journalists in too and exposing them to the Russian reality and rely upon them to assist in sending this message out. And right now, Garland Nixon, a friend of mine, a colleague, somebody who's well known to many of you, he has indicated that he would like to join me in Russia in November and to begin the process of empowering himself with the Russian reality so that he can take this message to the United States. Again, though, in order to preserve the integrity of this effort, this is something that has to be paid for by us. And neither Garland and I have the independent checking accounts where we can just go off and write $5,000. And basically to send Garland to Russia for 10 days is about a $5,000 proposition. We need help. And this is why I'm appealing to you. And then when we finish with this November trip, and trust me, the things we're planning for November will make August seem like a very small endeavor, and August was a huge endeavor. I don't want to give away the farm. Many things are unknown right now, but November has a great potential for helping propel us into December, where we want to have the meeting with President Trump. And therein also lies the rub, because in December, we need to book the National Press Club. We need to host another panel discussion, this citizens engagement team, so that we can make a briefing to the public as a way of creating an awareness and sort of an impetus, a momentum to gain access to the White House. Renting the National Press Club is a very expensive proposition, $15,000. And to bring in people and host them in Washington, D.C. for the 2 to 3 days that will be required for this endeavor also will cost several $1,000s. This is where, again, we need your assistance. It can't be done without you. A lot of people are out there asking for your money. And I know economic times right now are difficult and people don't have money to give. First of all, if you don't have the money to give, that's okay. There's no resentment here. Please just continue to watch, follow, read, empower yourself, and provide the support that comes with, that where I know that there are people out there who say what we're doing is right and they support what we're doing. This is very important. But if you do have the ability, and believe me, every dollar counts. If you have the ability to support, this is God's work. This is literally something that could result in the extension of an arms control treaty, the prevention of a nuclear arms race, the prevention of nuclear war, and in the process, the betterment of relations between Russia and the United States. This is an all-hands effort. This is a team effort. I'm not narcissistic and I'm not the egomaniac that some say I am, where I say this is all about me. I'm doing this on my own. I know I'm not doing this on my own. I know that I'm doing this as part of a team effort. And every one of you who donates is part of that team. And we are doing good work. We have done great work. And there are things that have yet to be done that can only be done if the whole team lines up in support. I promise you that I will not waste your money. I will not spend your money extravagantly, that all of your money will be used to pursue this objective of peace, this objective of nuclear disarmament, this objective of a world free of the fear of nuclear war. That's my promise, and I promise that the people that I work with will do the same. So if you're able, please, money makes the world go around. It's a famous song, but it's also true, because without money, all of these things that we're trying to do can't be done. So thank you for those who have donated, and thank you for those who might be considering donating in the future. I promise you, your money will not go to waste. That's been my rant. Next time a thought crosses my mind, I'll be sure to let you know. Thank you.